Call or text the show
at 727-858-6650.
Now, back to Q.
All right, so got to work through a couple, which is not a problem. It happens 21 past the 5 o'clock hour. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock, 727-858-6650. We'll get to some Facebook comments and some tweets as well. Jody, Summers Point, Q, nice to see you're giving Jalen Hurts a little love for once. I thought his legs were the difference yesterday, and I'll agree with you. Cincinnati looked ill-prepared and ill-equipped to match up against the Philadelphia Eagles. You think they make a head coaching change at the end of the season? I think all bets are off when it comes to Cincinnati, to be quite honest with you. Look, that's a nice win by the Eagles yesterday. You know, give them credit, right? They got through a bad Browns team and they beat them, which now, I mean, think about this. You probably should have went to Jameis Winston a while ago. They beat up and just absolutely annihilated the Giants 28-3. And then they put up 37 points against Cincinnati. They've got Jacksonville coming up and the Dallas Cowboys. Those are winnable games. So you want to circle a game, bookmark it the 14th of November. When the Washington Commanders take on the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, that's the game. I mean, that will have major NFC East implications. And the other thing is, if you look at the Eagles' schedule to close the season, they've got Pittsburgh. They go on the road against Washington, come back for the Dallas Cowboys and the Giants. So you got back-to-back. You got 2 home games to close it out. 4 out of your last 5 if you're an Eagles fan. So they're starting to pick up a little bit of steam. Now, listen, I still believe Washington's going to win a division. And Washington, you have to really take a step back and you have to give credit where credit is due. And I thought, yesterday is a perfect example of, you look at the coach, you look at the players, you look at the quarterback. I mean, hell, there's jealousy involved in it. That's what I want with the Giants. A quarterback, the head coach that gets it, that understands, that's being creative, a quarterback that can improvise, that can make plays, that can elevate his teammates, a change of culture. You're not seeing that with the Giants, but you're seeing it in Washington. And it basically, it's a trickle-down effect. It really is. There's a trickle-down effect when all of a sudden you got players buying in. When you got players buying in, a win like that, all that does is springboard a team. That's all it does. It gives a team that has been so downtrodden for so long hope. It's exactly what it does. It gives a team hope, and that's all you can ask for, especially if you're a Commanders fan, because they've had nothing to cheer about for so long. They've had nothing to cheer about. You look at this team, and they've just been a downtrodden team. They've been a bad team for a long time. And now you say to yourself, they got something cooking. They got something cooking right now in Landover. And you got to feel pretty good. I love the makeup of the team. They play extremely hard. They have some good offensive weapons. I think Jaden Daniels is an absolute stud. I really do. I've said this. Listen, I'm pissed off. I wish the Giants could have traded back and got him, but they didn't. It happens. Okay, you move on. But he can flat out play the kid. What you saw yesterday is another example of the NFL where you're never out of a game. You're never out of a situation. It doesn't matter how hopeless it might look. It doesn't matter, dire straits. But what do? You just don't give up on the play. You don't give up on the play, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. I mean, you're running around, you're improvising, you're doing all the things that you need to do, and then boom, you catch a ridiculous break, a Hail Mary, players are out of position, they don't knock it down, they didn't do the right thing, and you come out of there with a win that'll pretty much springboard you now going forward. That's the way I look at it. That's pretty much going to springboard you. John on Twitter chimes in, on X, I should say, chiming in. Q, you mentioned the lack of moves by the Dallas Cowboys. I think what the problem was is they gave all that money to Dak and they brought back McCarthy. You've been saying it for the last several years. It's not going to work with those two. It's not. It's not. Those moves that the Dallas Cowboys, or their lack of moves that they make, they are going to set the franchise back. You've invested a lot of money in Dak Prescott, and I understand why, because that's what the market wants, right? The market says you have to pay the quarterback. Dak got he got paid, but they're never going to advance. They're never going to take that next step. They'll never get to an NFC championship. They're not going to get to a Super Bowl. They won five playoff games in 20 something odd years. You have an owner, a meddling owner slash GM and Jerry Jones. It's one of the reasons I think the Dallas Cowboys, they are not a destination for anyone. If I'm a head coach, I don't want that job. I don't want to touch that job. I just don't. And I'll tell you this, and I'm getting to a couple of Jet fans right now. Kevin in Central Jersey chimes in. Q, I can't agree with you 100% on this one, but I will agree with you at least half. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is cooked or washed, as you say. I think a lot of it has to do with the GM and the roster they assembled. But I will agree with you in this regard. They are not a playoff team, nor did they deserve to make the playoffs. I'll get to that in a second, Kev, but appreciate you tuning in. If you've got meddlesome owners and GMs that just don't get it, it makes it more difficult for the head coach to do their job. It's hard enough to win in the NFL. It's hard enough to win in the NFL week in and week out. The Dallas Cowboys, they are not fit. They are not built. They're not a mentally tough team. They're not. When you got Diggs going after a reporter, that's embarrassing. You know why? Because he's asking honest questions, right? So you got this contentious blow up with a reporter after the loss, and the reporter's actually 100% in the right. And the Diggs, you talk about overrated players, overrated. I mean, you're going to have a cornerback on a professional team for the Dallas Cowboys try to grow a reporter because he didn't show up in a bad loss against the 49ers. Like, grow up, man. Shut up. You got toasted out there. You're overrated. It's the same thing with the Jets and Gardner, Sauce Gardner, overrated. Nobody wants to hear these guys talk anymore. You can talk if you back it up. None of these guys are backing it up. And to Kevin's point, I think Aaron Rodgers is cooked. I think Aaron Rodgers is a washed quarterback. He can't slide. He can't move over. He's not that guy anymore. And the Jets thought they were going to have all the pieces in place. And they decided we're going to make Robert Saleh the scapegoat. We're going to fire this guy who I have no problem with them firing him. But they wanted to make him the scapegoat. They wanted to say all of our problems are in direct relation to this head coach who's not a head coach. Okay, we understand that. So the optics are we're going to fire Robert Saleh, and that'll just wash away the nasty taste in our mouths. That will basically remedy everything that ails us right now. And that's not the case. You're 0-3. You made the move for Adams. You brought in Aaron Rodgers' best friend. That hasn't worked out. You have a players only meeting, or Adams gives this great speech that Aaron Rodgers says in 20 years of professional football, he's never heard a player just, the message in the locker room. And then you go on, you have back to back to back, you have clunkers, you have stinkers. You can't beat a horrible Patriots team. I mean, you're 0-3 since you decided we're going to make this head coach a scapegoat. That's all you did. That's all you did. And now you're seeing the aftermath of it, if you will. They're a bad team, man, but they're not the only one. You're going to see changes already with some of these teams in the NFL. Look what's going on in Carolina. Look what's going on in Indianapolis. You have a young quarterback in Anthony Richardson who, rule of thumb when you're dealing with the media, lie. Who's tired. That's why he had to get taken out of a game. He took himself out of a game. He's tired. You're 20-something years old. Really? I mean, come on. It's a horrible look. And I was texting my buddy this yesterday. The quarterbacking play, the IQ of the quarterback in the NFL and the head coaching has just been at an all-time low this season. It's been at an all. Some of the decision making is just the Bears game. I really haven't even gotten into the play calling in the Bears game where they tried to be cute. Let's get a lineman involved. I mean, Chicago, you have an opportunity on the road to have a really nice win, and the quarterback stinks. Caleb Williams did not play well. 10 of 24 for a buck 31. I mean, you're lucky you had Swift running the friggin' ball. Explain this to me. You run for almost 200 yards. Your quarterback was only sacked twice, and I don't believe they turned the football over, and you can't win a game? You can't win a game? I mean, come on. The play calling was abysmal. Stop trying to overthink it. Stop trying to get cute with the play calling in these NFL games. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And you got bailed out because you got you got the flag on Allen who ran the right route. And then all of a sudden puts the ball right on the goal line. But prior to that, you don't need to be cute. You're the friggin' Bears. You haven't won anything in God knows how many years. You're not a good franchise. You're a poorly run franchise. Get the win. Get the win. I mean, your defense was atrocious. You know what they're going to teach the Bears players now going forward in practice? How to knock down the friggin' ball, how to guard against a Hail Mary like that. And again, to Washington's credit, to Daniels' credit, he did not give up on the play. And Tyreek Stevenson, man, I'll tell you, I would not Monday, Tuesday in the film room, avert your eyes, man. Because again, the optics of it, whether he was taunting or cheering, they're horrible optics. Horrible, horrible, horrible optics. You have to have your head in the game, not your head up your ass in the NFL. Okay? But that was a bad loss. They're a poorly run franchise. So we're seeing it across the board. The Jets are a poorly run franchise. Carolina is a poorly run franchise. Right now, the Giants are a poorly run franchise. These teams cannot get out of their own way. And we're seeing it manifest itself on a Sunday. I mean, the Giants got Pittsburgh tonight. They got to go on the road. You know, Pittsburgh has a pretty good defensive line. They're pretty stout. You have to be able to get to Russell Wilson, right? I mean, the Steelers, I don't know the last time the friggin' Steelers lost on Monday Night Football. I don't know. I don't think they've lost. I don't think the Steelers have lost a game on Monday Night Football at home since like 1993. So you're laying 6.5, 7 against the Giants. And now the reports are the Giants aren't going to have a short hook, a short leash with Daniel Jones. I actually think the Giants might actually play competitive football tonight and keep this game relatively close because they stink on the road. They stink at home. Daniel Jones can't throw any touchdown passes. He's allergic to the home crowd. There's a ton of pressure when they play at home. You got to deal with the Boo Birds. You go on the road. They had 2 nice wins in Seattle and Cleveland on the road. I think the Giants keep it close. I don't like them to win the game. I don't. But I want to see if the quarterback can make some plays. I'm already past the quarterback. We know that. You guys know how I feel about the quarterback. I'm over the quarterback. But you got some really bad football in the NFL, man. Some really bad football. I mean, again, if I'm in that film room, the Bears, if I'm in a film room with Dallas, I'm in a film room with the New York Jets, I'm embarrassed. I mean, you talk about these lapses, I'm absolutely embarrassed. And oh, by the way, as Will pointed out to me in North Jersey, he told me check out the total tonight. Yeah, it dropped from 42 to 36.5. The Steelers minus 110. I think the Giants are plus 225 on the money line. I mean, that total is low. One of the lowest in the weekend for an NFL game. So you got the Monday Night Football. And then you got Game 3 of the World Series, which I told you guys this on Friday's show. What did I say? If the Yankees lose Game 1, they're going to lose a series. And we weren't on the air, obviously, in a game where I felt they shouldn't have pulled Cole. I felt that Soto was lapsed. I don't believe you bring in Holmes with runners on. They blow that game. And then what happens in Game 2? Again, big home runs. Freddie Freeman. Here we go. Yankees are down 2-0. Listen, it's pretty evident it's a must-win game tonight for the Yankees in Game 3. Series shifts back to New York, back to the Bronx. So now you get the Monday You get the Tuesday and you get the Wednesday. But listen, all bets are off tonight. I mean, the Yankees have to figure out a way to not only get on base, manufacture runs, and move guys over. And as great as a player in the regular season is Aaron Judge, you can't go through your career batting 196 in the playoffs. You just can't. It's just not going to get the job done. You know, I don't care about Soto in the offseason. Like, win the World Series right now. Take care of business, but it starts tonight. All right. When we come back, we'll get into a little more of some of the teams in our backyard. I did mention a lot of you guys are asking me about the Eagles, and I do have some thoughts on their win yesterday because, as you guys pointed out, I brought this up maybe 3 weeks ago. We talk about identities in the NFL. Which teams? What are they looking at? What's their identity? Well, I think some of these teams have found their identity and they should stick with it. So we'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. Got about 20 to play with on a Monday edition of The Drive with Q. We are powered by our good friends over at Zen Auto Concepts, the number one detailing shop in all of Florida, located in Stuart, Florida, and also Play It Again Sports, 1450 Clements Bridge Road in Deptford, New Jersey. A new store coming up in South Jersey as well. They'll give you best bang for your buck for your used sports equipment and more. Open 7 days a week. You can shop online. You can go right up to the door. Check them out online. playitagainsports.com/Deptford. Quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll take you up to 6.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontb.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Don't forget to get social with us. Follow Q at RichQ on Q. And now, back to Q.
All right, 5:40. We get up to 6 o'clock straight up, 727-858-6650. Getting some comments on X as well as Facebook, and we will definitely get into that in a moment as Kiki likes to make that appearance, and we'll just scoot her right by right there. She had some good picks over the weekend as well. We know that she had some good picks. She was 3-1, I think, when we get into the doggy version of the picks. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. 727-858-6650. That'll get you involved on a Monday edition of The Drive with Q. 727-858-6650. So I mentioned some of these teams that decided to actually show up over the weekend. Some of these teams that right now you're looking for an identity of some of these teams. I think if you're an Eagles fan, you pretty much starting to see your identity. You're starting to see your identity, and it's becoming pretty apparent. Jalen Hurts, when you start to get him moving around in the pocket and you start running the friggin' football and the defense shows up, listen, they should be a run first team. They really should. They had a buck 61 yesterday. Saquon 22 of 105, average 4.9 a carry. Hurts with the 3 touchdowns with his legs. One in the air with a great throw to Smith. I mean, you're starting to see maybe this is who we thought the Eagles were going to be. Now again, they're 5-2. They had a nice win on the road. Cincinnati's got a boatload of issues, a boatload of problems, but I still think Eagles are going to be in a dogfight with Washington. I really, really believe that. 727-858-6650. As far as the other games yesterday, I mentioned that you can see some of these teams that are coached up, right? Tampa Bay taking a step back, and all of a sudden Green Bay with a backup gets the win. I thought that was one of the most impressive wins yesterday. Packers on the road against Jacksonville. The Texans, they almost blew that game to the Colts. They win at 23-20. And the Bills, listen, we talked about the Saints early on, 2-0, here we go. And then you get the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks were 3-0. And look what happens, right? They've dropped 4 out of 5. I mean, they had to win against the Falcons. They've come back down to life. So you're looking around, you're saying, what team is going to start to separate themselves in the NFL? And I don't believe Kansas City is a legit juggernaut 7-0. I think Baltimore had a hiccup. It happens. It's the NFL. If you're a Browns fan, you're probably thinking we should have started Jameis Winston for a while now. We talked about that for the past 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, Winston's at least going to throw the football down the field. That was a big win for Cleveland. Is it a hiccup for Baltimore? That's all that is. It's a hiccup. That's all that game was for the Baltimore Ravens. It's a hiccup, AFC North, where you're looking around. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, now you're like, oh, wait a second. We got to win tonight. Here we go. Here we go. We're right there in the AFC North. Figure out a way. Beat the Giants and boom, 6-2. We're tied with the Baltimore Ravens, right? So that's a hiccup game. Buffalo, nice win. Pittsburgh looking to go to 6-2. Actually, they would be ahead of the Baltimore Ravens because the Ravens are 5-3, pardon me. Houston Texans, solid, legit, 6-2. They're going to run away with that division. Tennessee stinks. Jacksonville stinks. Colts can't figure out if Richardson's going to be the answer or not. AFC West, a little surprised that the Denver Broncos are 5-3. They won 2 straight. Bo Nix looks like, Peyton's got his quarterback. Did they run it up yesterday against Carolina? Peyton will sit there and say, we are running out the clock. They ran it up. He wanted to make a statement. Okay, fine. Remember, teams take notes in the NFL. But Kansas City, they're 7-0. They're not a juggernaut, man. The Kansas City Chiefs, listen, start from the beginning of the year. They beat the Ravens by 7. That's a nice win. Cincinnati, they beat them by 1. The Falcons, there were a couple no calls. They beat them by 5. The Chargers, they beat them by 7. The Saints, all right, they beat them by 13. The 49ers, that was a tough game. And then the Raiders gave them a game. No stretch of the imagination are the Kansas City Chiefs juggernauts. They're not, but they're 7-0. 727-858-6650. See what you guys had to say. Week 8 in the books. We'll read off some of your comments as well. So it's just a week-to-week proposition in the NFL. You can look really good one week, and then you can look piss poor the next, right? What's up, Q? Let them know how it is. Yeah, listen, that's a bad loss by the Bucs yesterday. What's going on, Penguin? Nice win by your Packers. Absolutely. 5:40 Eastern time. Giants still suck. Yes. Steelers on Monday night, or Steelers on the money line tonight. All right. I mean, plus 225, right? It does scream 17-10. No offense, all defense, and a snooze fest. Hence, split screen. Go to the game 3 of the World Series. I told you too, Joey, that total went from 42 to 36. So depending upon where you want to hang your hat. Denver, I'm not entirely sold on Denver. I think Nix is playing within himself at times. I'm not going to sit there and say he's a juggernaut. I'm not. But again, you got to give credit where credit is due. So, and the same thing with the Eagles, right? I'll give them their just due for winning a game. But you guys know that's a team in my backyard. We follow them, the Giants, the Jets, Washington, Baltimore, really close. I just need to see this. If the Eagles stick to their game plan offensively going forward and run the friggin' football again, then they're going to be okay. The offensive line starting to make a little bit of plays. We know about the defense. I thought Cincinnati had a piss poor game plan yesterday. I thought the offense was shut down. I was a little surprised. They're starting to question Burrow, by the way. They're starting to question Burrow big time. And as far as Tampa Bay, listen, man, I know you guys don't want to hear it, but you're starting to get bad Baker. And we can talk about Godwin. We can talk about Evans. Injuries happen in the friggin' NFL, man. But you cannot have your quarterback turn the football over like Baker Mayfield's been turning the football over the last several weeks. When they were winning, he was not turning the football over. Now they're losing. He's turning the football over. That's not good, right? I mean, again, you have to be very smart and judicious at times with the football. And we're seeing it across the league. Some of these quarterbacks with the decision making, it's just, I mean, Lamar Jackson can get away with it at times because he's Lamar Jackson. He's an MVP. But thrown across your body, that's a no-no. But we saw Mahomes do it all the time. Okay, Hall of Fame quarterback, Lamar Jackson en route to that. We saw Daniels do it at times. Young quarterbacks, you don't want to see them do that. But yet Daniels scrambles. He keeps the play alive when everyone thought the play should be dead. And what does he do? He uncorks one 50-something odd yards. You're looking at some of these quarterbacks. You can live with some of these plays. But a guy like Mayfield, Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott at times, these guys have been in the NFL long enough where you just cannot start to make some of these piss poor decisions, especially in the red zone. Those are back-breaking plays, man. You cannot give the ball up in the red zone. You can't have picks in the end zone. You just can't. That's one of the other reasons, like even tonight, whether you bet on the game or not, if you're a Steelers fan or a Giants fan, if you're a Giants fan, here's what you're looking for tonight. It's pretty simple. Can the offensive line keep the quarterback upright? Because if the Steelers get penetration, their D-line's nasty. They'll knock Jones out of the game. They'll get 6 or 7 sacks, just like the Eagles did. If the Giants' O-line can actually hang in there and give Daniel Jones a little time to throw the football, I think the Giants will be able to move the ball a little bit. And they need to run the ball. They have to, whether it's going to be Tracy or whether it's going to be Singletary. Even if it's Tracy, give them 18 to 20 touches. That's fine. But if they can move the ball a little bit, and now all of a sudden, maybe they can get to Russell Wilson, not as mobile, right? Older, shaky offensive line. I think they'll keep the game competitive. And I agree. I think this will be a low-scoring game. I'm not going to sit there and say take them on the money line. It's a game that Pittsburgh sees the Baltimore Ravens lose. The Pittsburgh Steelers think, okay, now we can start to create a little distance. And if we get a win, we put a little more pressure on the Ravens in the AFC North. But that's what I'm looking for the Giants tonight, and just play competitive football, right? As far as a couple of you guys are asking me on the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm seeing a lot of them on Facebook as well. D chiming in, Eric and AC, Dallas Cowboys fan as well. Listen, they made all these, well, let me rephrase that. They failed to make moves in the offseason. The moves they made were bringing back Elliott, bringing back McCarthy, and again, signing Dak Prescott and giving him that type of money. Now, I can't sit here and tell you Dak Prescott's a bad quarterback, because Dak Prescott is one of those quarterbacks he's going to frustrate the hell out of you. But the Dallas Cowboys have zero identity. We talked about the Eagles running the football and playing defense. Buffalo trying to run the football, having Josh Allen air it out. That's what they're going to do, right? Pittsburgh, their defensive line, their defense is back in Pittsburgh. They got their identity. Baltimore wants to run it with Henry, Lamar making your plays. That's your identity. Dallas Cowboys have zero identity. They don't. The Dallas Cowboys, right now, they're a team where it's like, okay, you go to the post, you go to the mailbox, you go to the Chevy, and I'm just going to try to find you. They have no identity. It's a flawed roster. It's an aging roster. And quite frankly, the head coach is in over his head. And even though he's put up a lot of wins in the regular season, 10, 11, 12 wins, they can't do anything in the postseason. They're allergic to wins in the postseason. They're a flawed roster, and it's a flawed franchise, and they need a cultural change. They need what Washington did. Jerry Jones is never going to sell the team, but they need to overhaul that coaching staff. And they need to bring in players that are buying in. Just because you're wearing the star on your helmet doesn't mean you're going to be a great player. It doesn't mean you have to act like you're a great player if you're not a great player. Diggs, stop. Parsons, stop. I mean, you got all these characters on this team, but they're not playing up to snuff. They're not matching that star, that reputation. They're not. The Diggs brothers are overrated. Parsons, you shut him down. Have we talked about Parsons this year? Best player in the NFL, best defensive player in the NFL? No. You can make an argument at Sexy Dexy in New York, Dexter Lawrence. So the Dallas Cowboys, they're an overexposed, they're an overvalued, and they're a fraud of a franchise. This is nothing new. You guys know it. I know it. You don't even need to be a football savant to understand that. The worst thing they did, unless you're a giant Washington Eagles fan, you love it, is bring back McCarthy. That's the best thing they did because McCarthy in the fourth quarter or a tight game or the playoffs, they're going to falter. And Dak Prescott is not a clutch quarterback. He's not. The Cowboys will win their 6 or 7 games, and all the talking heads will talk about in the offseason, you bring McCarthy back. What do you do with the quarterback? Is Jerry Jones going to sell the team? Let me answer that right now for you. Jones will never sell the team. Too much money, and he makes the owners too much money in the NFL. We know that, just like the commissioner. They love Jerry Jones, even though he's a meddlesome GM/owner. They'll win a couple more games, ultimately, right? Ultimately. And they're going to decide, we're going to move on from Dak. We're going to look for that out, and they're going to bring in another head coach. It's run its course. It's run its course. They cannot win with those two. It's just not working. It's a bad marriage. It's not a lasting marriage. It's a loveless marriage. And I'm not saying they're bad guys. That's not what I'm saying. It's just not working. It's like Brian Daboll and Daniel Jones in New York. Daniel Jones cannot be the quarterback of the Giants anymore. And when they're 2-7, 2-8, I've said it for weeks now. Most likely you're going to bench them. You're going to give Drew Lock reps. Now, the flip side of that is if there's reports that Brian Daboll's job might be in jeopardy, if he believes Daniel Jones gives him the best chance of winning, he's going to keep trying him out there. But from a standpoint of the contract and have them put him in bubble wrap, and God forbid if he gets hurt and paying him, that's going to factor in the Giants' decision. And that's why it's crazy. You know what's going to happen tonight. Daniel Jones will probably play a really nice game. They'll keep it close. And maybe they lose on a field goal and they have a good showing. And all of a sudden it's that false narrative. Well, you can win a little bit with Daniel Jones. You can't. You can't. And that's the perplexing thing when it comes to the NFL, being a fan, watching these teams, because week to week you say to yourself, man, there's a glimmer of hope. There's a glimmer of hope. You win a couple games, a glimmer. Giants might win tonight if they can neutralize the D-line. If they can't, they're going to get waxed. But you say there's a glimmer of hope. New England, get to Rodgers a little bit. Show toughness. A glimmer of hope. Okay? Glimmer of hope. And they win. Quarterbacks get knocked out. Young guys got to step up. Journeyman's got to step up, i.e. Cleveland, i.e. Green Bay. Right? But you got that false hope. I mean, right now, there are teams that need to just tear it down. The Dallas Cowboys are one of them. Carolina's probably thinking to himself, what the hell did we get into drafting this kid? Indianapolis is thinking the same thing with Richardson. You got a 20-year-old kid that says, I'm tired. I want it to come out. You don't say that in front of the media. You shut up. You keep that to yourself. That head coach might be on the hot seat. You're talking one and done with some of these guys. The decision-making, the GM, over-evaluating talent, taking a quarterback out of Duke with the number 6 overall pick, over-evaluating talent. It's a stretch. It's a reach. It's not working out. It's not working out. That's why when you lose football games, jobs are on the line. And I know as much as everyone wants to sit there and say, tank, 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 I don't believe you tank in the NFL. Because guys and players, they have too much at stake, man. You're talking about contracts, incentives, bonuses, everything on film. You can do it in the NBA. To some extent, you can do it in baseball if you're bringing up a lot of young players. The White Sox started to do that even prior to losing a buck something this year. In the NFL, man, it's different. Guys get hurt. I don't believe in the tanking, but I believe you make business decisions, i.e., we're going to sit Daniel Jones, we're going to sit X, Y, and Z and give another kid some reps, and we know we're going to lose because we want to, quote, see what we have going forward. I mean, it's crazy to think Dave Gettleman drafted Saquon, McKinney, Lawrence. I mean, think about that. McKinney is having a monster year. Saquon looks reborn with the Philadelphia Eagles. So, as I said, it's just sometimes you're stuck between a rock and a hard place in the NFL. And if you miss on a quarterback, you're going to set your franchise back 5-10 years. The Jets decided, here we go. Let's bring in Aaron Rodgers. Hasn't panned out. Carolina, we're going to overreach for Young. Indianapolis, maybe overreach for Richardson. Washington, Daniels, we love this kid. Denver, Bo Nix, we love this kid. Here you go. Williams in Chicago, yet to be seen. That's a rough loss if you're the Bears. You think you might have a quarterback going forward. There's a lot of young quarterbacks in the NFL, and a lot of them are going to sink, and a lot of them are going to swim. That's all it is. That's all it is. And some of these veterans, they can't play anymore. Some of them are cooked. Rodgers looks washed. Russell Wilson, for the most part, looks washed. Dak Prescott doesn't look good. He just doesn't. And then you got some of these young quarterbacks, Burrow, Lawrence. We're questioning these guys. Herbert, we're questioning these guys. Can you win with these guys? Can you go far with these guys? It's yet to be seen, right? It's yet to be seen. All right, got to start wrapping it up on a Monday. Appreciate you guys fighting through. Sometimes, the weather wreaks havoc. It's no one's fault. It happens, but we got in a solid 60. We will do it again on Wednesday, Friday. We'll have a nice Football Friday show, a What the Frig edition of the Drive with Q. You got the World Series Game 3 tonight, as I alluded to. This is pretty much it for the Yankees. Can I please get one game where Aaron Judge again wakes up? I mean, I don't need the $1.99 in the postseason anymore, man. I really don't. You need the Yankees stars to play like stars, and they have to step up. The other thing is the Yankees need to score early in this one. I know Ohtani's a little banged up for the Dodgers, but the Yankees have to get on the board early. They got to get the crowd going into it. And no, I don't believe you're going to see Tommy Cutlets tonight. You might think you might see Tommy Cutlets tonight, but you're not. He's probably going to be inactive tonight. All right, keep it locked in. And don't forget, download the app, SR1029thegame.com. Appreciate all the late comments. And on Facebook and X, we will get to them, as well as the YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q. Angel Martinez behind the glass doing yeoman-like work, as we like to say, battling. That's all you can ask for. Battling. I'll go out on a limb. Yankees win it 5-4. Judge with a big shot, we'll say in the 7th or 8th. And as far as the Monday Night Football, if you're leaning towards anything, I don't like playing the under, but this has the makings of maybe a defensive struggle, maybe field position, maybe a punt return, a field goal, something special teams wise. 2013, maybe 2010 Pittsburgh, they cover, but also you lean towards the under on that one. All right, everyone have a good Sports Monday. We'll do it again on Wednesday. Again, Angel behind the glass, keeping us on the air. I'm Rich Quinones. Appreciate everyone tuning into a Monday edition of The Drive with Q right here on SR 1029 FM The Game. We will talk to you Wednesday. Enjoy the football, enjoy the baseball. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.